Oh, it's another beautiful day. It's another blessed day. It's another righteous day. It's another what should be joyful, peaceful, restful Shabbat. Focusing on the things of the Most High, focusing on the ways of the Most High to the best of our ability. What has been revealed in the Torah to us, what has been revealed in the Holy Scriptures to us. It is a marvelous day to have the breath of eternal life. It is a marvelous day to be filled with the Spirit of the Most High. It's just a beautiful, beautiful day. Wherever you are in the earth right now, I pray that you are satisfied with your journey to this point. I pray that you are looking deeply within yourself to identify those elements of yourself which need to be corrected, which need to be tended to, which need to be cultivated in order to grow into the individual that you need to be in these last days. And I'm really loving these parts that we're doing. Okay, these multiple part studies. I like these a lot because it gives me the time to really divulge deeply into the topics that have been placed on my heart as being the most important right now to discuss. Um, we could talk about news and all those sorts of things, talking about what's happening in the world and what that means, but ultimately they're all distractions, okay? Whenever I make videos talking about news or things that are happening, events that are happening in this world, I do my best not to fall within the distractionary objectives that mainstream media seeks to push on to us, and I always want to look at these alternative or these pieces of news as a way to infuse the truth of the Most High into the situation. Um, Recently in my city, there's been a number of killings, but Wednesday was interesting. There was two killings that happened right around the corner from each other within about 3 minutes of each other. And when you're in a city, that normally isn't something that happens. Okay, individuals don't normally get killed back to back minutes apart, uh, like that so closely. So that was quite the anomaly. What got my attention was one of the individuals was 44 years old, both male. One of the individuals was 44 years old, lost his life, was killed, gunned down. And right before that, a 37-year-old young man was killed. And where I'm from, growing up how I grew up, we always had these checkpoints, these life checkpoints. So when I get 16 years old, I'm gonna do this. If I can make it to 18, I'm gonna do this. If I can make it to 21, I'm gonna do this. If I can make it to 25, I'll do this. Then if I can make it to my dirty 30s into the 30-year-old range, I'm gonna do this. Um, that's usually where it stops at 30 in my community. We rarely think about what it means to be 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. And it's so sad that it seems like the killing culture that's taking place right now, it's affecting so many people. When I thought that, you know, you would be involved with that killing culture, that was always, my generation kind of felt like we had to worry about. We was like, well, once you get to a certain age, that's not going to affect you too much. Now, of course, none of us know when our number will be pulled. But it's how the number has been pulled that's really gotten my attention lately as far as the gun violence. Now, this isn't obviously a statement made to have our weapons taken away. It's not about that. The gun doesn't do the damage as the person pulling the trigger. You know, the gun ain't shooting by itself is the point. So it's not definitely not no attack on firearms or sidearms, anything like that. But what I'm saying is, I've never seen. Well, it's been quite some time since the '90s where I've seen so much killing. And what's different about the '90s from now is that in the Bay Area, a lot of the killing had to do with back doors and had to do with double crosses pertaining to drugs. Whereas the killings in Southern California had to do primarily with the color you chose to wear or the color that an individual chose to wear. And then you would have the situation surrounding drugs as well, the double crosses and all of that stuff that comes with the game. But I've never seen in this particular era so much killing based off of a level of impatience and based off of a level of misunderstandings and based off a level of true anger, like true anger, real anger, that people are so temperamental, situations where people get so temperamental that they decide to violently kill another. And it's troubling to me because the young brothers who got killed, 44 years old and 37 years old, I would have definitely thought, usually it's somebody that age at like 40s plus, usually in the back in the day, it wouldn't be because of street violence. It would be some sort of domestic thing, or it might be somebody who took a chance committing a crime that they felt they had to commit against an institution or something like that, and then the police would probably gun them down. But I've never really seen this level of street violence where people are taking street justice and implementing it themselves. There is no check in, there is no uh, big homies or big bros or anybody that's controlling and shot calling these situations. For the most part, it's people who are part of this Fortnite, Call of Duty video game culture that have finally been so numbed and desensitized to the idea that this Grand Theft Auto, this GTA culture, who have been so desensitized to real life that many people subconsciously think that once they kill somebody in this realm, that person will immediately, what video games call is respawn, meaning that character will pop back up on the screen after something happens to it violently so that the player in this realm could continue playing the game. And it's very troubling. And I think more than ever, why I have to do these particular live streams is because I'm still thinking about the young brother, a young sister, or elder brother, elder sister who's in the street, who is still on the fence with the direction that they feel they have to go. And I'm hoping that these videos, these live stream messages, will reach those people. I'm hoping that these videos pop up on their feeds on YouTube and that they click on the video and that they're able to sit down and listen to the content of the video long enough to further contemplate their position. Um, our age right now, where all life is fragile, I would say yes. Are we living in an age right now where death and the killing culture is reaching a level that we've never seen before? Yes, I would say so. Are we in an age right now where lawlessness, with a high extreme of selfishness, is prevalent right now? I would say yes. And so, for the children of Israel and for those people, those Gentile nations, those strangers who are seeking to live a better life and who are seeking to live a life in accordance with the Most High, this is also a reason why I have to do these live streams. I think there's a great theme going on right now with me where I say, I could be doing anything right now as well as you. And I don't like to say those things to hold it over, y'all. Like, oh, well, bro, just being cocky or ego. He's talking about he could do anything he want. Well, then go on and do what you want. What you want to do then. That's not why I'm saying these things, because this is what I want to do. The point of it is that's my point. This is what I want to do. This is what I've chosen to do. And this is what has driven me to this point in my life is the realization that if I had not answered the call of the Most High back in 2007, I really, really know in my heart that your brother True Jew wouldn't be sitting before you right now, or I wouldn't be sitting before you in this capacity. And so the level of realness that took place in my life, who I am, and why I know answering that call was prevalent to my existence now. Oh, I'm so grateful for that, and I don't play with that. And because I don't play with that, I have to contemplate, what am I going to focus on? What am I going to apply my daily attention to? What matters the most? What really, really, truly, truly matters the most? Can I get rid of the illusions for a minute? Can I go back in time, mentally, genetically, and think and contemplate on those things that my ancestors and ancestresses did when they didn't have to worry about the 9 to 5, when they didn't have to worry about a corporate presence, when they didn't have to worry about um, even mass hysteria and this propaganda that's being placed out all over the place. And all they had to do was focus on protecting lands, raising and cultivating the property, the allotment that they were blessed with, keeping their families in order, their homes in order, keeping their communities in order, keeping the nations in order, and living in piousness to the Most High. So I had to start thinking what's really, really, really important. And what means is the devil using to distract us so greatly that we have a difficult time even balancing. For those of us who have to engage in a worldly system, is it possible to engage in that system while also doing the things of the Most High and living in a righteous way? And it's a balancing act, but I think that the balance and the weights, they should always lean more toward the Most High. It should definitely, and this is my opinion, it should definitely be more servitude and honor and praise and reflection, introspection. All of those ideas should be focused more toward the Most High. Now, that's not easy for everybody to do because people have different temperamental levels. People feel differently. How I feel is not necessarily how you feel, and that's okay. But what we have to do is figure out why we feel the way we feel. And if the reasons we feel the way we feel are attached to worldly aspirations and desires, then we need to figure out a way to correct ourselves so that we can realign our focus back to the things of the Most High. And so when I think about the topics that need to be spoken on, I think it's great to re-identify that we must do our best to adhere to the law, statutes, and commands of the Most High. And I was like, man, here this brother go again with that law, statutes, and commands stuff. Listen, this is very important. This is very important. Our people, talking about Israelite people, are so destroyed for a lack of knowledge, not not knowing where we're from, not knowing why we're here, not knowing why we've been oppressed, not knowing why we're trampled down in the streets, not don't have our own lands, our own country, not knowing why we don't have our own judicial system, our own government to tend to, not being aware of who we are to the point that we need to recognize that we must adhere to the laws, statutes, and commands of the Most High, being ignorant to the fact that there are even laws, statutes, and commands given to us while clamoring around here trying to make laws and statutes and uh, have a form of judicial presence in the country of our captivity and actually sit up here trying to replicate and mimic colonial laws, statutes, and commands. Continually asking the question, well, why is this happening to us? Why do we go through this? Why is this taking place? And when are we going to be able to do this? And not realizing all the answers are in the scriptures. All of the answers are in the Torah. All of the answers are available to us. But we still want to be ignorant. Oh, talking about the law, statutes, and commands. I got to run away from that. No, no, I got to turn my ear off to that. I ain't trying to hear all that right now because as soon as I hear it, I'm gonna be held accountable to not doing whatever it is I heard. So nope, I'm good. I'm good. I don't want to deal with it at all. I'd rather just live my life. I'd rather just be who I want to be. Everybody else is being who they want to be. But that's a blind mentality. We heard of the blind, hey little one. We heard of the blind seeing the blind, blind leading the blind. I said blind seeing the blind. The blind leading the blind, right? And people purposefully following after those who don't mean them no good. Okay. Um, we must place ourselves into a position where we begin to really deeply look at ourselves, what we're doing, and how to use this time, how to really fully use this time to the best of our abilities so that we can present ourselves as righteous stewards to the Most High. This is very important. I'm going to be reading back from Second Ezra. I love that book, and I'm also going to be reading from Second Maccabees. We're talking about the importance of the law. We're talking about the importance of doing your best. We're talking about living in such a way where even when you are persecuted for your decisions of following the law and adhering to the law, statutes, and commands of the Most High, you can be placed in a position of reward, of great reward, once the persecution has ended. I know a lot of us feel like, well, if I adhere to the law, statutes, and commands of the Most High, well, then I'll be considered a loony. I'll be considered a quack. I'll be considered somebody that's doing something from them old school days that don't even matter no more. I remember when I first got into this walk for real in 2007, one of the first things I wanted to do was learn what day the Sabbath was. I have a study called the Lunar Sabbath Truth on the Gatekeeper Ministries channel. I think I'll share it later on. But the reason I do Sabbath lessons like this on a Saturday, Friday evening, through Saturday evening, is because that is what many of us have denoted as the Sabbath, for instance. But our ancestors, they didn't deal with a Gregorian calendar. And I'll just briefly touch on this. In order for us to keep time from time memorial, we dealt with the phases of the moon. And the phases of the moon are very telling in what time of the month everything is. Women, particularly, use the moon in correlation with their menstrual cycles, the menses, the menstrual cycle. It takes place according to the phases of the moon. And so that's something that when we look at, for instance, moon, the word month comes from munth, which comes from moon. Okay. So when I think about how our ancestors observed the Sabbath, it was always based off of the first crescent or the new moon. Now, in today's society, the new moon is considered the no moon in the sky. I don't go off that though. I go off the very first crescent. Okay, the first crescent is the first day of the month, and from there you count your 7 days, and then that seventh day is the day of rest. Well, in the place of our captivity, the new moon normally takes place sometime around the 10th to the 15th of a month, and that could be on a Tuesday. So if you go a Tuesday on the Gregorian calendar, so if you go Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday again, you'll mess around and have a Sabbath on a Tuesday. And everybody gonna call you crazy because it's not Saturday according to the Gregorian calendar. Helped me was when I was looking for the Sabbath and I realized that the Spanish speaking language, Saturday is sábado, which means Sabbath, while Sunday is Domingo. And I said, huh, well, there's part of my answer. So I began to keep the Sabbath, but I was ostracized for that. No, 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 we don't got to do that right now. That's the Sabbath is done. We honor the Most High on Sundays. I didn't know about Constantine and the changing of the days and the times yet. I have read about these things in the book of Daniel, but I didn't, I was still a baby in my walk, so I didn't really know how to apply those things too much. I didn't even know that we was living with the Gregorian calendar at the time. And so they changed all the laws and the times during the eras of Constantine and those late popes of Rome. And now we've been so brainwashed in the society of lawlessness that it's very difficult for a surface level thinker or someone who wants to move forward with excuse after excuse as to why not to observe the laws, statutes, and commands of the Most High to say, well, look, even the churches are saying don't do this, so I'm going with what the churches say, not realizing that the church has always been the body of believers. The church was never a building, a brick and mortar building. That was just the building where the body of believers would congregate. Okay? But the church, you are the church. You are the temple built without hands. You are the tent. You are the vessel. You are the house. Your avatar. And the spirit of the Most High should be inside of you. Now, why is it so important to adhere to the law, statutes, and commands? Well, first of all, as a son of Israel, as a man of Israel, it's important that we guide and lead our women and children, our families, in a righteous way while living in a beautiful world that has been overrun by wickedness. We must guide our families in a righteous way while living in a beautiful world that has been overrun by wickedness. This is beautiful. I'm not gonna sit up here and hate the trees and the herbs and the foliage and the grass and the grasshoppers. What did they do? They're up here crying out to the Most High too. The birds are saying, "Oh, it's horrible! What's going on?" rampant like this, they're crying out too. Rocks are even crying out. So I'm not going to blame them. They're still doing what they're supposed to do. They're keeping the law, statutes, and commands that were decreed to them by the Most High, and they're still growing. They're still producing seed. They're still being planted and regenerating themselves. They're still providing shade, fruit, sustenance. They're still being homes for all of the many different varieties of birds, and the bushes are still being sanctuaries and hideout places for the many ground animals. Creation is doing what it's supposed to do, but it is foolish humans who are not doing what we are supposed to do. And a lot of that has to deal with the fact that us as Israelite people, true blood descendants, genetic Israelites. I'm not talking about no spiritual Israelites. Living, breathing people. I'll check out comments later on. Family, I'm not sure. I just seen something pop up, I think. I'll check out everything later on. And I thank y'all for participating in this live stream on this Shabbat. I hope that you are receiving this message. See, the Israelites are hard-headed cells. We were chosen of all the nations of the world to be the inheritance of the Most High. You see, one thing that I think I'll do this study. I'm still contemplating on how I want to bring it forward, but the Most High, when He puts something on your heart, you just do it. A side note about being the inheritance of the Most High. I did a video before speaking on what an inheritance is. When a father leaves an inheritance for his children, those children receive a portion of whatever it is the father has left for them. When we look at other nations of the world and other cultures and the gods that they serve, that those gods were allotted to those nations by the Most High. But what we also need to realize is that the Most High chose a particular, peculiar people to be His own nation. And this is something that is so rarely spoken on because today it's taboo. We don't realize that when the Most High says He is jealous, that to be jealous means there has to be something else that exists that would make me jealous or make you jealous. If there's nothing else to exist that's in an arena as the same arena as you, then you will not have anything to be jealous about. Because that opportunity for someone else who is not in the arena with you to then look and focus on that individual or that being will not take place. In other words, if there's two of me and you all are watching the other version of me more than you watching me, and I feel some kind of way about that, I could be jealous of myself or the other version of me. Well, because it's only one of me, I'm standing right here. There's nothing else for you to focus on unless you cut this video off, this channel off, and go watch somebody else, which is your prerogative to do. Now, when we talk about the nations of the world, all of these Gentile nations are Gentiles because they are not blood descendants of Jacob. They're Gentiles because they are not Hebrew by blood. When the Most High created Adam, Adam was the progenitor of the nations of the world, which would be given different powers to serve. But eventually, because each power was given an allotment and an inheritance, and each power or God inheritance was a nation of people. I spoke about this in a few lessons already. But the nation of inheritance was to be lifted up above the world as a way shower and a steward of the word of truth as given by the Most High to men, to people, were the Israelite people. Because the Israelite people, my ancestors and ancestors, were so thick headed and so hard headed, we now see an inverted, a flipped over, a backwards way of living on this earth. And it is a direct correlation to us as people going against the Most High, basically opening the floodgates for the rest of the world to despise the Most High and also now to despise the Most High's children. I like to use the analogy. We all had friends before. We all had friends that weren't so cool, but we would still call them our friend because we thought they was cool. Then that friend is invited over to the house. And you know dang well your mama got ground rules that you got to follow. Your papa got ground rules. Your daddy got rules you got to follow. But they step out the house for an evening now. They step out to go to work. And then you bring these friends over to the house. Now every rule that your mama and your daddy didn't gave you, you are breaking. They might have even wrote the rules on the front door. No friends after 5, or no friends in the house while I'm gone. These are rules to govern their home, and there are rules that govern you. You're well aware of these rules, but you decide to break the rules, and you decide to invite individuals into your home that like breaking rules as well and don't respect authority. So these people who don't even belong in your home is walking in your home against the will of your mother and your dad. Now the respect level has diminished all the way because that person inside of your home that had never been there unless you invited them in is now looking at you like, well, hey, he belong here in this home. I don't. But if he not even respecting his mama or his daddy's rules or his mama or his daddy's wishes, why should I? They not my mama and my daddy. And now you got a friend over here that can cause more havoc and wreak more havoc in your home than you ever thought imaginable. Now this friend is texting friends that you don't even know, that you ain't even cool with to come over, and now you got a whole house of friends. You done went up to the bathroom for 10 minutes. Little did you know this friend of yours was text messaging 20 more people talking about it's a house party now. And now your house is overrun. Your parents' house is overrun by a bunch of idiots because you decided to break the rules that was established for your governance. And that's exactly what's happening right now in our world. Because our ancestors and ancestresses did not want to adhere to the law, statutes, and commands that was wisely given to us, the rest of the world now has an excuse to not only do us dirty, but to turn their back and disrespect the image, the face, the being of the Most High. This is why it's so important to cleave and adhere to the law, statutes, and commands to the best of our ability. I want to read a story to you out of Second Maccabees. First time I read this story, it brought tears to my eyes, literal tears to my eyes. It's about 7 boys. Well, 7 brothers, I should say. They're not boys, they're men and their mother. They were captured because they were Hebrew Israelites. And when they were captured, they were asked to eat swine's flesh. They were asked to eat unsavory, unclean things, things that were to be sacrificed to gods that they didn't serve. And because they refused to do so in the nation that they were captured, the king of that nation, they had this just like the Romans would torture our people in as and make our men gladiators, fight to the death. There was this sort of torture sport that took place. And I'm going to read about that right now. And I think that it's important that for those of us who adhere to this idea that, Oh, because we're in the places of our captivity, we're in the places of our oppression, that we don't need to adhere to the law, statutes, and commands. That's a fallacy. To those of us who believe that, oh, we must keep Sunday instead of the Sabbath, that's a fallacy. Oh, we don't have to observe the high holy days, the feast days, the days that were set apart for us because we're in our captivity. That's a fallacy. Yes, times have been changed, calendars have been altered in an attempt to throw us off from our culture and who we are. But the Most High sees all, hears all, has mercy on whom he will have mercy on, saves whom he will save. And so what we have to do is do our best to, one, of course, figure out what the laws mean for us in this day, live to the best of our ability within those laws, but also realize that while we do so, we want to be as lowly minded as possible. We want to maintain humility, and we want to not be hypocrites. Okay. Second Maccabees, chapter 7. This is an awesome story, but I want to warn you, it can be graphic in parts. And it's one of those type of stories that really brings levity to the idea that we must adhere to the law, statutes, and commands to the best of our ability, even at the sake of us being persecuted. And I'll get to the questions and statements a little later. It happened also, seven brothers and their mother were arrested and were being compelled by the king under torture with whips and thongs to partake of unlawful swine's flesh. This is Second Maccabees chapter 7. We have preachers today all over the world saying it's okay to eat unclean animals and unclean things. A lot of these preachers are Gentiles who are seeking to steer their congregations comprised of mainly Hebrew Israelites off the path. But then you have what we like to call those pork chop preachers who know the truth but are seeking to create a different narrative for their own reasons, meaning that they know most of us come from the enslavement period or descendant of that period where we were removed from our culture, removed from the laws, statutes, and commands of the Most High, ignorant that we weren't supposed to eat the swine's flesh. Many of our ancestors, present day, even 70 years ago, 80 years ago, was given the hog as a form of sustenance because that's what we were relegated to eat while our crops were under sharecropping, being given back to the overseers. On our corns and our grains and our vegetables. But today there shouldn't be an excuse as to what is clean and unclean, but we still are inundated with all sorts of swine. Medications carry swine now. Insulin, a lot of different insulins that people need have swine, uh, elements of the pig in them. The pepperonis and your meats, a lot of your snack foods, your gummies. A lot of these things have swine in them, and you have to do your due diligence to figure out, dang, this has gelatin in it. Gelatin is from swine. Pop Tarts, frosted Pop Tarts, y'all got even got swine in them. So you have to, if you're gonna give your children Pop Tarts, you got to go with the Pop Tarts that are unfrosted. There's so much happening right now with the swine in order to destroy the countenance of the children of Israel and to keep us in an unclean state and status. So, back in this time period that we're reading from Second Maccabees chapter 7, we're going to be reading about seven brothers and their mother who refused to eat the swine in order to keep the law and what happened to them and why it's still important to do so in keeping the law. It happened also that seven brothers and their mother, this is verse 1 of Second Maccabees chapter 7, let's get it. It happened also that 7 brothers and their mother were arrested and were being compelled by the king, under torture with whips and thongs, to partake of unlawful swine's flesh. One of them, acting as their spokesman, said, "What do you intend to ask and learn from us? For we are ready to die rather than transgress the laws of our ancestors." The king fell into a rage and gave orders, pans and cauldrons heated. These were heated immediately, and he commanded that the tongue of their spokesman be cut out, and that they scalp him and cut off his hands and feet, while the rest of the brothers and the mother looked on. Helpless, the king ordered them to take him to the fire, still breathing, to fry him in a pan. The smoke from the pan spread widely, but the brothers and their mother encouraged one another to die nobly, saying, "The Most High God is watching over us, and in truth has compassion on us, as Moses declared in his song that bore witness against the people to their faces, when he said, 'And he will have compassion on his servants.'" That song being spoken of can be found in Deuteronomy chapter 32. The Song of Moses. And Moses made an end of speaking all these words to all Israel. And he said unto them, "Set your hearts unto all the words which I testify among you this day, which ye shall command your children to observe to do, all the words of this law. For it is not a vain thing for you, because it is your life. And through this thing ye shall prolong your days in the land, whither you go over Jordan to possess it." And the Most High spake unto Moses that self same day, saying that he wouldn't go into Israel because he had transgressed himself in a way that did not make the Most High happy, but that he would have to stand on the outside of Israel and watch the children of Israel as they went into the the lands uh, bestowed upon them. But these people, this mother and her sons, knew that the Most High is watching over us and in truth has compassion on us, as Moses declared in his song that bore witness against the people to their faces when he said, "And he will have compassion on his servants." Verse 7 of 2nd Maccabees 7. After the first brother had died in this way, remember he was tortured, his hands, his feet were cut off, his tongue was cut out of his mouth, he was scalped, and then while he was still breathing, this black man, so called black man, this Hebrew Israelite young man, was placed into a cold, scalding hot pan, and he was fried in a pan in front of his brothers and his mother. I need y'all to think about this for a second. The level of persecution that our people had long been receiving from the Gentile nations who did not want to even have anything to do with the Most High and hated the Most High's children because they themselves were not chosen from the Most High, the Most High of hosts. The hosts are the other gods the other nations were given as an inheritance too. But those gods were not the great, the Most High, the highest of the gods, where the jealousy was stirred up amongst the other nations towards the children of Israel, and why they were so happy, even to this day, to persecute us and to hold us captive and to oppress us, trample on us, because it is a hatred not only for us, but for the Most High, for choosing us as His own. I need y'all to really pay attention. Verse 7. After the first brother had died in this way, they brought forward the second for their sport. Remember, I told you this nation of people, they had this torture sport, if I may, similar to being made a gladiator. Listen to this. After the first brother had died in this way, they brought forward the second for their sport. They tore off the skin of his head with the hair and asked him, will you eat rather than have your body punished limb by limb? Remember, they're demanding that they eat the swine's flesh, which is unlawful for the children of Israel to eat. He replied in the language of his ancestors. He did not reply in their language. He spited them by using the language of his forefathers and foremothers. Listen. And said to them, no. Therefore, he in turn underwent tortures as the first brother had done. And when he was at his last breath, he said, you accursed wretch, you dismiss us from this present life. But the King of the universe will raise us up to an everlasting renewal of life, because we have died for his laws. I think one of the key reasons that the people of Israel, our people of Israel, do not adhere to the law, statutes, and commands is for a subconscious fear of persecution. Not only have we been removed from our lands, our borders, our military might, not only have we been removed from the blessings and have been placed into the curses that the Most High would promise us, but now you mean to tell me I got to live these laws, statutes, and commands in the place of my oppressor, in the place of my captivity, where I can easily be persecuted now? And subconsciously, many of us are literally afraid. So it takes bravery, it takes courage. You will be rewarded, if not in this life, in the life to come. And whoo wee, in a microwave era, in the age of the microwave, where we live, where everybody wants what they want right now. Oh, you mean to tell me I got to serve the Most High and I got to do this and I got to live this way and I still got to wait for that reward after I'm maybe killed off for living that way? I don't know if I want to deal with that package. I think I'd rather just follow after Kim Kardashian. I think I want to deal with whatever Elon Musk and them is talking about. And you've been given free will to do that, but you must know that your free will can very well lead you into eternal damnation. And I'm not the type of brother that's going to say to each his own or each her own. I would rather be an example of what has been blessed to me and do my best without persecuting and pointing fingers, because you point a finger, three point back at you. I point a finger, three is pointing back at me. So I don't want to be a hypocrite. I just want to use my life as an example, just like these brothers used their life and this mother used her life as a example from the past for the future for us today to see how important it is to adhere to the law, statutes, and commands. They have not gone away with. Yahshua himself tells us that not one jot or tittle of the law shall pass away. So Yahshua said that the law is no more. Where he say that at? That's a lie. The truth is that the Israelite people of blood descent, genetic Israelites, must go back and turn around and seek the face of the Most High. And when he was at his last breath, he said, you accursed wretch, you dismiss us from this present life. But the King of the universe will raise us up to an everlasting renewal of life because we have died for his laws. After him, the third was the victim of their sport. When it was demanded, he quickly put out his tongue and courageously stretched forth his hand and said nobly, I got these from heaven, and because of his laws, I disdain them. And from him, I hope to get them back again. As a result, the king himself and those with him were astonished at this young man's spirit, for he regarded his sufferings as nothing. Remember, I made the statement earlier about when my life was changed and I answered the law or the call of the Most High, and I realized that the very avatar and body that I was living in was a tool of truth and to walk in the ways of righteousness that were preordained for me to do so before I was even born. I was using all of my faculties to basically serve the devil. Oh, how despicable I was. That could have taken my life away and wasted the breath given to me to serve the Most High. But I decided to live in a way that was against the Most High, propping up the devil and being a horrible example of what not to do, being a horrible example against the Most High. It light, the light, I should say, that was given to me and using my gifts, talents, and all of my abilities fuel and feed the agenda of the devil. And now I'm recognizing that error, that mistake. And because now that I've recognized that I was erroneously using this life, I want to do everything in my power to correct the wrong, to right the wrong, to live in a manner that is actually becoming of the Most High and not waste this life. Because the devil seeks to kill, steal, and destroy all who rock with it. And I no longer want to believe a lie. And I no longer want to cleave on to a lie. And I no longer want to live within a lie. And to purposefully live that way so that my brethren and my sister can see that horrible way of living and then seek to replicate and copy that way instead of the way of truth and righteousness. It's easy to copy, but it is harder to copy after the ways of the Most High because we see the rewards in this life, rewards of oppression, persecution, the awards of um, and living the ways of the Most High. So it's not as easy in this realm, but the idea is that if you are enemy to the ways of this world, you are a friend of the Most High, which means your rewards will be eternal. The rewards are temporal. They're temporary. They're all you'll get from the Most High if you are cleaving to the devil is an eternal punishment, an eternal torment. Within my free will to live this way so that those who are contemplating the choice within themselves can choose right. This young brother says, I got these from heaven, talking about his body. And because of his laws, I disdain them. If he had a choice to choose his own body versus adhering to the law, statutes, and commands, This young brother wisely chose the law, statutes, and commands, knowing that this body was temporary, but the spirit is eternal. And the choices that he made in adhering to the law, statutes, and commands will promise him the reward of everlasting life. I got these from heaven, and because of his laws, I disdain them. And from him, I hope to get them back again. There's a new body coming. There's a new avatar that's coming. That's going to be way better than this one. Don't be fooled and deceived into thinking that you must focus on this one alone and not do what you need to do in order to receive the new one, which will be eternal. As a result, the king himself and those with him were astonished at the young man's spirit, for he regarded his sufferings as nothing. After he too had died, they maltreated and tortured the fourth in the same way. When he was near death, he said, one cannot but choose to die at the hands of mortals and to cherish the hope God gives of being raised again by him. But for you, there will be no resurrection to life. These are the words he spoke to the so-called king who was torturing him. Next, they brought forward the fifth and maltreated him. He looked at the king and said, because you have authority among mortals, though you are also mortal, you do what you please. But do not think that God has forsaken our people. Keep on and see how mighty his power is. Keep on and see how his mighty power will torture you and your descendants. This is what the Gentiles don't realize. For a short while, they have persecuted, oppressed, and tortured our people, doing the things that mortals do, not realizing that the Most High sees all, and the Most High is going to pay them back doubly for what they have done to us. I'll read that again. After he too had died, they maltreated and tortured the fourth in the same way. Now, this is the fourth brother talking. When he was near death, he said, one cannot but choose to die at the hands of mortals and to cherish the hope God gives of being raised again by him. But for you, there will be no resurrection to life. Next, they brought forward the fifth and maltreated him. He looked at the king and said, because you have authority among mortals, though you also are mortal, you do what you please. But do not think that God has forsaken our people. Keep on and see how his mighty power will torture you and your descendants. After him, they brought forth the sixth. And when he was about to die, he said, do not deceive yourself in vain, for we are suffering these things on our own account. Listen carefully, Israelites and Gentiles alike, because you must realize why we are here in the place of our captivity. Listen and hold yourself accountable. Quit running from your sin. Quit running from your transgressions. Quit trying to sweep your idolatrous ways under the carpet. Stop it. Realize what's going on. Turn back to the Most High. The fifth, after they brought forth the sixth. Okay, now we're at the sixth brother. Listen carefully. After him, they brought forth the sixth. And when he was about to die, he said, do not deceive yourself in vain, for we are suffering these things on our own account, because of our sins against our own God. Therefore, astounding things have happened. But do not think that you will go unpunished for having tried to fight against God. This brother was wise in that he admitted that the reason he and his brothers and mother were being tormented right now is because them and our ancestors had gone against the ways of the Most High and would promise to be punished by other nations because of that. Verse 20 of chapter 7. The mother was especially admirable and worthy of honorable memory. Bless their memory and bless her memory. Although she saw her 7 sons perish within a single day, she bore it with good courage because of her hope in the Most High. She encouraged each of them in the language of their ancestors. Y'all hearing this mother's love? She encouraged each of them in the language of their ancestors. Filled with a noble spirit, she reinforced her woman's reasoning with a man's courage. I love that. That brings so much joy. All of you daughters of Zion, all of you virtuous women, in the day of persecution, you must continue to speak light and the love of the Most High to your children and to yourself. You must not give up. You must not give in. You was born a champion. You was made to win. And that persecution will come from all angles. But you mustn't bow. You mustn't give in to the ills of the Gentile nations who seek to persecute you and trick you and to remove you from your position with the Most High. Especially admirable and worthy of honorable memory. Although she saw her 7 sons perish within a single day, she bore it with good courage because of her hope in the Most High. She encouraged each of them in the language of their ancestors. Filled with a noble spirit, she reinforced her woman's reasoning with a man's courage. Said to them, do not know how you came into being in my womb. It was not I who gave you life and breath, nor I who set in order the elements within each of you. Therefore, the creator of the world, who shaped the beginning of humankind and devised the origin of all things, will in his mercy give life and breath back to you again. Are y'all hearing this? Since you now forget yourselves for the sake of his laws. To serve the Most High in truth and in righteousness, to the point where we would have to forsake our bodies even in order to adhere to those laws, statutes, and commands. That is what we were called to do. That is even what Yahshua did. And the reason that Yahshua is so special is that the Most High proved through Yahshua that if you forsake the ways of this world and you cleave to the law, statutes, and commands of the Most High, that even if they punish and persecute your body, you will be restored and renewed. Carefully. Verse 24. Antiochus felt that he was being treated with contempt, and he was suspicious of her reproachful tone. The youngest brother, being still alive, Antiochus not only appealed to him in words, but promised with oath that he would make him rich and enviable if he would turn from the ways of his ancestors, and that he would take him for his friend and entrust him with public affairs. I just spoke on Yahshua. Doesn't that sound familiar, y'all? Who else was tempted that way? Wasn't Yahshua tempted that way by the devil? Tempted that he would be given all sorts of riches in the whole world if he would just bow and serve the devil? This Antiochus is a figure of the devil. And Antiochus is trying to tempt the youngest son. You see how he did that? He killed the eldest down to the second youngest in order to see if he could stir the youngest away from the law, statutes, and commands of the Most High, being the youngest. They always do that. That's even what what happened to our people when we were enslaved. The youngest, the babies, were ripped away from the mother and the father. The babies forced to watch their father and their mother being killed and persecuted and hung and lynched and beat and brutalized. The youngest out of the families were forced to see their brothers and their sisters raped so that they would contemplate greatly. Whoo, if I don't do what the master is saying, if I don't do what the overseer is saying, I'll have the same punishment. And all of us were able to overcome that. I'll read what Antiochus propositioned him with again, so you could see the levels of deceit that the devil inject into his narrative in order to throw us off, but how we must stand strong. This lesson is important, y'all. Verse 24 of 2nd Maccabees chapter 7. Antiochus felt that he was being treated with contempt, and he was suspicious of her reproachful tone. The youngest brother being still alive, Antiochus not only appealed to him in words, but promised with oaths that he would make him rich and enviable if he would turn away from the ways of his ancestors, and that he would take him for his friend and entrust him with public affairs. Since the young man would not listen to him at all, the king called the mother to him and urged her to advise the youth to save himself, trying to play them against each other. After much urging on his part, he undertook to persuade her son. But leaning close to him, she spoke in her native language as follows, riding the cruel tyrant. Listen to what this loving mama said to her last surviving son, who had just seen his older brothers being tormented, tongues being cut out, hands and feet being removed, scalps and hair being removed, and being fried in cauldrons and frying pans, alive. Listen to what this mother said to her last remaining son. And you must remember that these are so called black people like you and I. These are descendants of Israel by a Gentile king. She tells her son. But leaning close to him, she spoke in their native language as follows, deriding the cruel tyrant. Son, have pity on me. I carried you 9 months in my womb and nursed you for 3 years and have reared you and brought you up to this point in your life and have taken care of you. I beg you, my child, to look at the heaven and the earth and see everything that is in them and recognize that God did not make them out of things that existed, and that in the same way the human race came into being. I'm gonna say this again because this is the part where the tears come to my eyes, y'all. This is a mother's true love. Y'all need to take note of this. My son, have pity on me. I carried you 9 months in my womb and nursed you for 3 years and have reared you and brought you up to this point in your life and have taken care of you. I beg you, my child, to look at the heaven and the earth and see everything that is in them and recognize that God did not make them out of things that existed. And in the same way, the human race came into being. Do not fear this butcher, but prove worthy of your brothers. Accept death so that in God's mercy I may get you back again along with your brothers. All praises to the Most High. While she was still speaking, the young man said, "What are you waiting for? I will not obey the king's command, but I obey the command of the law that was given to our ancestors through Moses. You who have contrived all sorts of evil against the Hebrews will certainly not escape the hands of God. For we are suffering because of our own sins. And if our living Lord is angry for a little while to rebuke and discipline us, he will again be reconciled with his own servants. But you, unholy wretch, you most defiled of all mortals, not be elated in vain and puffed up by uncertain hopes when you raise your hand against the children of heaven. You have not yet escaped the judgment of the Almighty, all seeing God. Our brothers, after enduring a brief suffering, have drunk of ever flowing life under God's covenant. You, by the judgment of God, will receive just punishment for your arrogance. I, like my brothers, give up my body and life for the laws of our ancestors, appealing to God to show mercy soon to our nation, and by trials and plagues to make you confess that He alone is God. And through me and my brothers, to bring an end the wrath of the Almighty that has justly fallen on our whole nation. Y'all see? Do y'all see why this ain't no white man's book? When you actually read the scriptures and you actually read the accounts of our people today have been happening ever since we turned our ways and sinned against the Most High. The wrath of the Almighty that has justly fallen on our whole nation. This is the nation of Hebrew Israelites that is in question here, that is in reference here. We have to leave the ways of this wicked system alone, or we're going to keep on being punished. But we live in a time right now where we are in the 12th part of the age. Esau is the end of this age, but Jacob is the beginning of the age to come. We are living right now in a time where the grace that was given to us to turn back to the law, statutes, and commands are almost done, and two-thirds of our Hebrew Israelite brothers and sisters are going to be killed. This is another reason I go so hard. Create all sorts of alternative things on this channel, and I could say this and say this and do this and do that. But what is really important is taking full advantage of this breath of life. This we have to still correct ourselves. We don't have to correct ourselves, and we're just covered by some imaginary uh hall pass. Do whatever we want to do. Grace means, boy, little girl, you're given a chance to correct yourself, and you better go on and take that chance before it's too late. And you found yourself to be of the two-thirds of our people who are destroyed. Now, I'm not even talking about the rest of the world. Billions of people are going to be killed very soon. I'm not talking about that. Scattered to the four corners of the world due to our disobedience. See what happens to this last brother. Verse 37 again. I, like my brothers, give up body and life for the laws of our ancestors, appealing to God to show mercy soon to our nation, and by trials and plagues to make you confess that He alone is God, and through me and my brothers to bring an end to the wrath of the Almighty that has justly fallen on our whole nation. The king fell into a rage, handled him worse than the others, being exasperated at his scorn. So he died in his integrity, putting his whole trust in the Most High. Last of all, the mother died after her sons. Let this be enough then about the eating of sacrifices and the extreme tortures. So that wicked king forced the mother to see all of her sons put to death, and then he killed her, as if to say, "Woman, you, you birth these ignorant, strong sons who don't respect me, honor me as a king, and will not eat the things that I want them to eat, and will not listen to me and allow me to rule over them. I'm going to kill you too, so that you cannot bring forth any more of these sons of yours who want to cleave unto the Most High and who want to serve the Most High of Israel." Whew. Y'all, I had to take a breath on that one. I had to take a breath on that one. The Apocrypha takes place, much of the Apocrypha takes place during a time when we were excommunicated from our lands and foreigners were beginning to rule over us. And it was still at a time when many of our people were very clear on the law, statutes, and commands of the Most High and would rather die than to break the law, statutes, and commands. Even much of our brethren and sisters had done so. And now I think more than ever, well, now that I think that there's such a small sliver of our people out of out of the whole who seek to live in that manner, that the idea if you can't beat them, join them is more prevalent than if I can't beat them, I'm gonna stand strong in this truth, and if I'm persecuted for that, well then so be it. Um, when I think about what we just went over, right, and I think about how um this law is supposed to be maintained throughout all of our ages, that we were supposed to teach our children, and our children were supposed to teach their children, and so on and so forth. Um, it can be kind of perplexing, especially in a place where you heard where the mother was speaking to her sons in their ancestral tongue, right? And many of us, we still haven't learned our ancestral tongue. Now, I'm not talking about Yiddish that the Khazarians speak, that the Jewish people speak, those fake people, those fake Jews. They're not really of the tribe of Judah. So they speak that Khazarian Yiddish and pass it as Hebrew. I'm speaking in regards to Phoenician, the Phoenician Hebrew dialect, where we get the words Shalom and Yashrala, and, you know, We do Shema, oh Shema, Shemaya. All of these words where we speak. And yes, little one. And it's difficult to get back to that place because we have been born into the society where English, one of the languages of our oppressors, is prevalent. I always found it funny. Well, not always, but later on in my life, I found it funny how in school, the public school system, they primarily only teach European languages. Those are the languages that you could choose from in school: Spanish, European; English, European; German, European; French, European. I think they was even teaching Dutch at one time, European. Have y'all ever noticed that? All European languages. Hard. You gotta go to college, maybe, and it depends on what college you go to even learn a language of an African nation. You have to get private tutors to learn Yoruba and Igbo and those types of languages, and Harik and all of those types of languages. You have to go to a whole nother school. You have to get a tutor. Those languages aren't taught. Um, the so-called Native American tongues, they're just now, a couple of those are just now starting to be taught in school. So when you think about the dominance that the oppressors have had, it's no joke. The curriculums that they produce in order to keep us away from the truth is crazy. Um, we're gonna stop right there with this particular lesson as we read out of the Apocrypha. But when we go back, let me see something real quick. Okay, just saw something I want to read later on. So let me let me get a bookmark real quick. And I thank y'all for joining me. I thank y'all for participating in this live stream. Oh, this is a beautiful card. Okay, I thank y'all for participating in this live stream. Okay, I really hope you were edified in this. Deuteronomy 32, verse 7. Now let me start at verse 5. They have corrupted themselves. Spot is not the spot of his children. They are a perverse and crooked generation. They have corrupted themselves. Their spot is not the spot of his children. They are a perverse and crooked generation. Excuse me, I keep thinking this. I'll read it one more time. They have corrupted themselves. Their spot is not the spot of his children. They are a perverse and crooked generation. Do ye thus requite the Most High, O foolish people and unwise? Is not he thy father that brought thee? Hath he not made thee and established thee? Remember the days of old. Consider the years of many generations. Ask your father, and he will show you, your elders, and they will tell thee. When the Most High divided the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel. For the Most High's portion is his people. Jacob is the lot of his inheritance. The Most High of hosts divided the nations, but he divided the nations according to the number of the children of Israel. And each nation was allotted an overseer, a heavenly being, one of the Elohim, each nation. But the nation that received the Most High directly was the children of Israel. You see, It's almost like I'll say this. This just popped in my head about Michael Jordan. It's like going to a Michael Jordan camp, right? And you go to this basketball camp, and Michael Jordan has his trainer there. He has other people there, other coaches there that rock with him. And they separated all of the children into these groups, right? But there's one group out of all the children and groups that was made that actually get to train and go with and be coached by Michael Jordan. Now everybody's at the Jordan camp, basketball camp, but only 10 of those 100 children get to actually go play with Michael Jordan and be coached by him. Michael Jordan specifically chose those 10 people. Now, wouldn't that make the other 90 children mad and jealous and upset? Wouldn't the other children be upset that they paid? The parents might even be upset too. I paid all this money to put my child in this camp, and you mean to tell me he's not going to be able to train with MJ? Oh, I hate MJ now. And I despise all the children who got to go with him. Do y'all see that like earthly example? So the Most High, being the highest, chose the children of Israel, literal people, out of all the rest of the nations. And all you have to do to see who the children of Israel is today is to read the Bible and see who are the people being persecuted, who are the people being oppressed, who are the people who are the descendants of those individuals who were carried away captive to the four corners of the world. Who are those people on earth right now who cannot just pick up and leave this country called America and go back to whatever land they're from? Who are the only people on earth who are not bilingual, who do not speak their mother tongue, but also speak English? Who are they? Who are the only people on earth who fit that protocol, who fit that characteristic? The so called African American people, the so called people of the Caribbean, who are all these different nation names. The people who were spread literally through slavery and made vagabonds in whatever land that they were brought to. Who are the people at the lowest parts of society? Not because they purposely put themselves like some stock bond baby who just didn't want to be Warren Buffett's grandson no more, so he decided to be homeless. No, I'm talking about people multi generationally who have no choice but to be the lowest of the totem pole of society. Who are these people? Those are the true Israelite people. When I think about what's going on right now in this land, and I think about what we had, the finest of all things, we had the best land. We had our own laws, statutes, and commands. We had our own way of life. We were commanded, set your hearts unto all the words which I testify you. Set your hearts unto all the words which I testify among you this day, which you shall command your children to observe to do all the words of this law. It is not a vain thing for you, because it is your life. And through this thing you shall prolong your days in the land whither you go over Jordan to possess it. So we have work to do. The law, statutes, and commands are definitely not done away with. Um, I truly hope that you were edified and received the benefit of grace again today. I thank you all for choosing to rock with me today to participate in this live lesson. Um, the music that I've been creating is is so good that I'm eternally grateful for it. But I mention the music briefly right now because on the Shabbat especially, we should not only be studying and resting and thinking about the things of the Most High, but as we listen to different forms of music and those sorts of things, we want to fill our conscious and our minds up and our spaces up with those forms of music that will also help us to observe the Shabbat and help us to continue to honor the Most High. And so that's why I'm very happy about this music as well. It's not going to take your mind off of the things of the Most High, and it goes so hard that it's like, wow, I actually was blessed to create this level of music where, like I said, it's not some surface level type music. It's filled with deep messages that keep me, as I listen to it, reflecting on the things of the Most High. And it's very powerful in that way. And so I'm thankful about that. And I know that you all will benefit from it in such a great way because it's an extension of the lessons that we have to learn and the word that we have to remember, right? And so even on a day not the Shabbat, you'll be able to listen to this music and prepare your minds and your thinking for the Shabbat. Let me see what we got going on. Oh, y'all did a lot. All right, let's see. Happy Shabbat, family. Yes, the moon and period is definitely connected. Yes, the moon and the menses is connected. Yes, Sabbath is Wednesday according to the moon. I still celebrate the traditional as well. Very good. Wednesdays for this seventh month of Ethanim Tishri. Very good. Thank you for that confirmation and reminder. Wow, great comparison with rules of home to the governed guidance of Most High Mama and Papa. Yes, yes, swine is in a lot of food. It beyond belief when you read the ingredients. That's correct, Awakening Goddess. Sobering message, tribe guide. Well done. Thank you, Mama Carolyn. Yes, all praises. Definitely edified during lesson. Thank you, Brother Chu for this part three. Oh, y'all are so welcome. Oh, I'm impressed. I'm impressed with y'all. I really am. All praises, all praises, all praises, all praises to the Most High. I'm very excited about y'all uh, taking the steps to do what it takes to continue to edify yourselves and to move forward in truth. It's very, very cool. You're highly appreciated. Just know that. I hope all of my queen sisters, daughters of Zion, were able to hear that story about the mother's love for her seven sons and really take it in unto yourself. Once again, that was Second Maccabees, chapter 7, the entire chapter. And when you every that chapter always gets to me, y'all. I haven't read it in so long, but the other day I was like, we're gonna talk about the law and keeping the law and what it means to keep the law, statutes, and commands, especially in a place of captivity outside of our land. What better illustration or narrative to present than to talk about Second Maccabees chapter 7? Oh my. And you want to talk about a woman who raised her sons to be men. Oh my. And how they love their mama. Would not even dare to go against the Most High. Oh my. Bless her memory, bless her tutelage for raising those boys so profoundly into the men that they became. Oh my. And I hope that we are able to raise our children in a like manner. I hope that our children, our young ones, because we are living in some crazy times, y'all. Elon Musk just released his robot, okay? And he's talking about selling this robot, millions of them, for under $20,000. And this robot is pure wickedness. He got on some interview talking to the robot about how he wants this robot to kill people on the earth. And I'm just getting straight to it. You know, the 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 misinformation about it and all that, it's like, wow. So this is what we doing now, Elon. But Elon Musk is the same guy who created the Neuralink, which will be the mark of the beast put inside the forehead. Okay. So when you think about what time we're in, all I know is that these next few years, it's gonna be one wild, 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 wild ride. And I'm seeing the word coming to life more and more so. I know as I put myself out here, obviously I'm a real man. Like I'm a person. I'm flesh and blood in this point, but I'm spirit as well. So just walking around and knowing that I'm speaking these things, and I'm not trying to hide and be like one of the sheep. I'm not sitting up here trying to use this time to blend in. First of all, I don't blend in nowhere I be. Okay, I'm so tall that wherever I go, I stick out like a sore thumb anyway. And then I look peculiar as ever. People look at me. Like I said, remember I told y'all that story about the Aladdin lady? Lady said I look like Aladdin. I never heard that before, but that had me laughing. But still, nonetheless, people know I'm different. And that's exactly what a Hebrew Israelite is supposed to do. When you walk around this place, they're supposed to know you set apart. They're supposed to know it's something different about you. They're supposed to see a peculiar being in front of them because that's how we've always been to the world. And so I just used myself as a sign and a way show, as a billboard of sorts to show people, hey, the Israelites, we not gone. We not dead. But the thing is, a lot of us are gone in the mind. We're not gone genetically, but a lot of us, the majority of us, are gone in our minds. And whatever we can do to remind our family, extended families, about what it means to live in this truth, we must do so, even at the chance of us being persecuted and oppressed. Because this body is temporal. This Hebrew Israelite body was the avatar created for the spirit of the Most High to dwell within, because the Most High chose us to be the stewards of that spirit in these bodies to the rest of the world. It makes so much sense to me. But if we up here and we are not using these opportunities in the correct way, guess what? We gonna be in trouble. We are going to be in trouble, and we see the trouble right now. Two killings back to back in my city. Two killings in Vallejo within a matter of 3 minutes, y'all. Right around the corner from each other. 3 minutes. 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Life is so fragile right now. People think life is a joke. Take your life and do the right thing with it. Do the right thing with it. Get back into this script. Get back into the Torah. Get back into the Holy Scriptures. Teach your family how to read. Guide your family. It's such a juggling act we have to do today. But I think that as long as we do what we are called to do, no matter what we face, we will be rewarded. Now, this is going to be a multi part lesson as well. I already feel it in my bones. There's still more that I have to read, that I would like to read. We're still going to be coming out of, I still want to read uh, Second Maccabees. We're done with chapter 7, but I want to get into chapter 6, a little bit of chapter 6. And I also want to get into Second Esdras. What did I say? I want to get back into, well, I didn't get into it the way I want to. So yeah, we're going to do chapter 6 of Second Esdras as well. And then I want to do chapter 7 of Second Esdras. Let me see something real quick. I love when I turn right to a book. I'll be loving that. Thank you, Mama. Papa. I love that. Chapter 7, um, verse 88. You know what? Let me read this before we conclude this lesson, because it's one thing to talk about the persecution. It's one thing to talk about all of these things that happen to those who follow the law. Well, let's talk a little bit about the reward real quick. Second Ezra chapter 7, verse 88. Now this is the order of those who have kept the ways of the Most High, when they shall be separated from their mortal body. During the time that they lived in it, they laboriously served the Most High and withstood danger every hour, so that they might keep the law of the lawgiver perfectly. about, y'all, I forgot I was supposed to talk about this until just now. So while I was talking about the avatar, when I was talking about this genetic Hebrew Israelite body being created to house the spirit of the Most High, to then serve the Most High in this avatar in order to be a light to the world, I said, wow, this makes perfect sense to me. And now, right here in 2nd Ezra chapter 7, verse 88, we read that now this is the order of those who have kept the ways of the Most High, when they shall be separated from their mortal bodies, their avatar. Listen, during the time that they lived in it, they laboriously served the Most High and withstood danger every hour, so that they might keep the law of the lawgiver perfectly. Therefore, this is the teaching concerning them. First of all, they shall see with great joy the glory of him who receives them, for they shall have rest in 7 orders. First order, because they have striven with great effort to overcome the evil thought that was formed with them, so that it might not lead them astray from life into death. See how our Israelite brothers and sisters is dead mentally and spiritually. But those of us who adhere to the law, statutes, and commands and laboriously do them, we will be rewarded in the first order because we have striven with great effort to overcome the evil that was formed within us, so that it might not lead us astray from life into death. The second order, because they see the perplexity in which the souls of the ungodly wander and the punishment that awaits them. The third order, they see the witness that he who formed them bears concerning them, that throughout their life they kept the law with which they were entrusted. Our ancestors and ancestresses were entrusted with the law, statutes, and commands, and those of us who kept the law, statutes, and commands are going to receive the rewards that the Almighty has to give to us. The fourth order, they understand the rest that they now enjoy, being gathered into their chambers and guarded by angels in profound quiet, and the glory waiting for them in the last days. The fifth order, they rejoice that they have now escaped what is corruptible and shall inherit what is to come. And besides, they see the strait and toil from which they have been delivered, and the spacious liberty that they are to receive and enjoy in immortality. Woo! We go from being mortal in these mortal bodies to immortal in immortal bodies. This is a real thing, y'all. And the devil tries to throw you off and throw me off and throw us off into only doing the mortal temporal thing, not realizing that when we use our mortal lives for the servant of the Most High, we will be placed into immortality. Listen to this. The sixth order, when it is shown them how their face is to shine like the sun, and how they are to be made like the light of the stars, being incorruptible from then on. The seventh order, which is greater than all that have been mentioned, because they shall rejoice with boldness, and shall be confident without confusion, and shall be glad without fear, for they press forward to see the face of him who they served in life, and from whom they are to receive their reward when glorified. This is the order of the souls of the righteous, and henceforth is announced, and they previously mentioned. And the previously mentioned are the ways of torment that those who would not give heed shall suffer hereafter. Now, I started at verse 88 because this lesson, we already talked about some of the torture and pain that was received in this life for those of us who adhere to the law, statutes, and commands, but who will then be receiving the rewards of the hereafter, the immortality to come. But in the next lesson, most high willing, we will get into what happens to those who seek the rewards of this life, but who will be rewarded with torment, pain, and torture in the life to come. All right. So that was tight. That was tight. I thank y'all for joining me this day. We're going to go ahead and sign out. It's been a blessing to come before you all again on behalf of the Most High, doing my absolute best to deliver this word of truth. May you continue to reflect on these things, not only today, but throughout the rest of the time, throughout the rest of the week, throughout the days ahead. Continue to stand strong in the truth. Yo, bro, True Jew, love you to life always. Remember to stay blessed in all things. Give thanks for all things. Pray without ceasing. Stay vigilant. Thank you all for joining me again. May your homes, your households be blessed. May you continue to have a hedge of protection around you always. May the ancestors and ancestresses of the esteemed, of the exalted placement, the angels, may they watch over you. May they minister to you in your sleep. May you hear their voice. And may you do those things that are becoming of a saint of the Most High. It's your brother True Jew, tapping in with y'all the only way I know how. Raw, real, and uncut. Thank you again. Most High Mama, Papa willing, I'll be back with another one. But until then, gone.